In this video, I'll be discussing basic care requirements for Pacman frogs, as well as addressing some frequently asked questions. Pacman frogs can be found in a variety of colors and patterns, which makes them not only beautiful, but highly collectible. Although these frogs do have the capacity to grow quite large, they don't start out this way. This is what a Pacman frog will look like at under 1 year in age. This one is aged 2 to 3 years. I can already tell this is a female due to its size and shape. Female Pacman frogs will grow much larger than males. This frog is the largest and eldest in my collection. Having had her for 7 years, I've become quite attached to her. She's easily one of my favorite pets. When I first purchased her, she was actually quite small, but with attentive care and consistent feeding, she's grown to a monster size. Here is a photo of the three of them together for scale. Though I did actually have them all in this one shot, this is a risky thing to attempt, as these frogs will cannibalize each other if given the chance. Now I'll discuss feeding, diet, and behavior. Pacman frogs are what's known as ambush predators. They spend most of their time buried under the soil, with just their eyes above, waiting for anything to cross their path that they might snack on. This method of hunting, while giving them the benefit of conserving energy, is also a necessity, because due to their large size, they're not agile and completely unable to run down prey. For my Pacman frogs under a year in age, I'll generally feed crickets and mealworms. As soon as I feel they're large enough though, I'll generally switch them to a diet almost entirely comprised of earthworms. My preference for this staple diet of earthworms is due to the fact that they're easy to feed directly to the frog, but they're also high in protein, and they're easy to coat in calcium powder, which is essential for all captive held frogs. Though I do vary their diet, which is essential for their overall health, I've grown my frogs to be quite large on a diet consisting almost entirely of worms. I tend to feed my frogs once or twice a week, though in their natural environment, the opportunity to eat this frequently probably wouldn't present itself. These frogs have been known to go 4 to 6 weeks without food, and they seem to do just fine. Pacman frogs will lunge at virtually anything that crosses their line of sight. They simply don't possess the capacity to understand what is food and what isn't. Due to their large size and enormous mouths, they can often swallow things that you would not assume possible. These frogs have extremely powerful jaws. When they do latch onto something, they use this jaw pressure in combination with their sharp teeth to secure it, making it impossible for the prey to escape. One downside to this ability, though, is that once these frogs grab onto something, they're fully committed to swallowing it. Even if they're to change their mind about trying to eat something, it's almost impossible for them to release it. These frogs have been known to choke to death trying to swallow things that are larger than they are. As stated before, these frogs will attack anything they see. This does include fingers. Though their bite is not overly painful, they can draw blood with their sharp teeth. More so than anything though, it's just really difficult to get them off. I've had larger frogs attempt to swallow my entire finger right down to the knuckle. It's these characteristics, though, that make owning Pacman frogs so amusing. Large, healthy frogs will rarely, if ever, turn down a meal. The manner in which they eat their food and their gluttonous disposition makes owning them a lot of fun. Along with insects and worms, Pacman frogs can also be fed the occasional rodent. This should be done infrequently though, as it's not something they would often eat in nature. Due to its enormous size, this frog is actually eating a rat. This is a very large meal for a frog, so it should really only be done once a month, if that. A meal of this size will also take a long time to digest, so I likely wouldn't feed this frog for another 2 weeks. It also takes a frog a long time to swallow something of this size, but patiently, little by little, it'll get the task done. Housing and additional needs. One of the great things about keeping Pacman frogs is the simplicity of their care. As these animals live a solitary life and tend not to move very much, their requirement for space is very minimal. Most frogs can be kept in a tank sized as little as 10 gallons. My largest Pacman frog lives comfortably in a 20-gallon tank. The only real requirement here is some type of substrate, whether it be potting soil or eco-earth. Because of their tendency to dig and burrow, adding any type of hiding place or plants to their terrarium would be pointless. Due to the fact that frogs are cold-blooded animals, their survival is dependent on being kept in a consistently warm temperature. I keep all of my frogs in a climate-controlled room, but if not doing so, a heating mat can be utilized and should be attached to the side of their tank. The only other essential element to their care is constant hydration. Frogs, like all living creatures, require water to live, although their method of consuming it is slightly different. They drink water through their skin. Because of this, the substrate within their enclosure has to constantly be saturated with water. I spray or add water to their terrariums at least once a day. If knowing on a day I won't be present to do this myself, I make use of an automated misting system. Although you should always do additional research for yourself before purchasing any animal, I hope that this video has given you some idea of how easy and entertaining keeping a Pacman frog can be.